I'm trying to make sense of it all, because one of the most frustrating things about Pokemon Legends is that there's no time frame for when Pokemon Legends occurred. I would like to know when the Hisui region existed before it became Sinnoh, just to make sense of it all in the Pokemon world, because the history is well established elsewhere. So with this, a new adventure awaits within Lumiose City, where an urban redevelopment plan is underway to shape the city into a place that belongs to both people and Pokemon. And then we just have to wait and see for ourselves. So that's what the trailer is. The trailer is just kind of like building that up and showing the future. This is the plan that we have for Lumiose City. But when? It's not thousands of years ago, immediately after the ultimate weapon was fired, or it's like, because that didn't even destroy Lumiose City. So, like, the redevelopment plan, to make something this technologically sophisticated, still needs to be fairly recent. And that's also where I'm, like, kind of going and putting the pieces together, because the Kalos power plant, yeah, that also looks like a very technologically advanced thing, and it's the main power source for Lumiose City. When does all of this happen? And it's also just so weird to go from like Pokemon Legends Arceus, where like we're primitive, not even Pokemon trainers, pre-Pokemon trainer, using weird balls and all kinds of other lore and stuff that makes absolutely no canonical sense inside of Pokemon. And then we're going to something that's like trying to project a more futuristic outcome. And if you're thinking about it, let's say this is 50 years ago in Pokemon time. It's like, yeah, that's actually a very futuristic projection, but somehow it becomes Legends. Somehow it becomes Z, but also A. Is this supposed to be a joke or like a little, a little nod? Oh, it's AZ. But what does that mean for Zygarde? Why, like, if AZ had vanished for thousands of years and he shows up in X and Y, why does he have any relevance here to Pokemon Legends? So that makes it a bit more confusing. Like, we're going from a super ancient Pokemon Legends game to, just go back a couple decades to try to figure out the start of Kalos, instead of expanding on it with an actual sequel and then getting more elaboration. Even though I guess this could, like, solve a lot for Zygarde because it's just chilling in its cave. Actually, Zygarde complicates this even more because we ended up with the complete form. So in trying to make a Z version with Omega Green Alpha Sapphire and then expand upon it a bit more into Pokemon Sun and Moon, like, how are they going to tie this in to Pokemon Legends Kalos? What about all the anime stuff going on with it? Pokemon Adventures has lore, and it played a role in Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But then there's, like, no hard history about Zygarde except for Pokedex entries? Bro, why didn't Zygarde play a role in... maybe Zygarde plays a bit of a role in Legends. I can see the ass pull here. Kalos region's ecosystem falls into disarray. It appears and reveals its secret power. And the funny thing about the power plant is that it's stressed to be an environmentally friendly power plant. Yeah, an environmentally responsible power plant. Even though we know that the last thing Lysandre is responsible. So did, like, shenanigans happen, and then Lysandre put away Zygarde? But then, like, but, like, see, like, it doesn't make any sense, because the time for Zygarde to appear and pull shenanigans would have been when Zygarde's out there reviving Xerneas and Yveltal to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So now that we've defeated Lysandre in the future, for, like, a sequel that happens X amount of years in the future, there's no reason for Zygarde to appear. If it appeared in the past, then how did any of this happen? And who would have just let Zygarde go? And unless someone has, like, remembered every bit of trainer dialogue or every bit of exposition from the actual, like, story of X and Y, I don't know if there's anything to, like, grab here, because I'm going through all the pages. It doesn't say, like, oh, Lumiose City was built 50 years ago, and we don't get that from any kind of trainer in Pokemon X and Y. We don't have any build-up from that. So, like, even though it is a very large city, that's like one of the most developed cities inside of Pokemon, there's no existing history about it, despite all the landmarks and stuff. Is there an is there an off comment in the anime that's like slightly canonical as to when the city was built? But then it's just about style, the mechanics, and then the history just kind of doesn't happen. And then it's got like all kinds of anime development and stuff and looking cool like that, and generations. That's when Looker comes into play. Is Looker gonna be a kid in this? Like, that's what I also wanted to go to. I'm like, okay, do we know Professor Sycamore's age? Do we know Lysandre's age? Like, it would be interesting. It's like, okay, Pokemon Legends happens when these guys are kids, maybe, so we could dial it back 30 years, and then that kind of tracks because of like how tied Sycamore is to the region, and it seems like a bit of significance when it comes to Lumiose City. But then, you know, you first meet him in Lumiose City, where he'll battle, and then stuff happens, and then disappointed when Lysandre reveals himself as the boss of Team Flare, but returns to his network of acquaintances to stop the villainous team, Dexio, Cena, and all that other stuff. And then he doesn't... See, like, at Kerway Town, he apologizes to the player for not preventing what Lysandre had done, and then challenges the player to a battle. So, I mean, does he, like, have a connection to Lysandre that could go deeper into Pokemon Legends? And then they were kind of here as everything got built? And, like, when did the... Like, that's a big thing. When did the power plant get built? Is there any lore? Is there a book that explains this? If we go deeper into Lysandre Labs, you know, we have all of this fun stuff, but this is just the history, but then we get the history at the end of the game anyways. When I was young, I went on a journey around Kalos, my Pokemon, reached out to those suffering because they had nothing. See, like, maybe this, because we have something about Lysandre's past. Eventually, they began to take my help for granted, demand more and more. Will fools like these people consume the Kalos region? The world is stable and secure, so the population of people continues to increase unabated. There's a limit to the amount of money and energy the world is capable of producing. Either everything is lost, or only a handful are saved. Something best not left to man. I must make a tool of higher power. So, when was the power plant made? I was thinking, like, since Lysandre Labs and the power plant and all that energy and stuff, like, was that his plan from the beginning? So I'd be more, like, in his development? Or did he already utilize the existing power plant? Power plant could be very recent. Clement revealed that he was involved with the program for the power plant. I don't want to read, like, every little bit of detail on every Bulbapedia page about the Kalos region at this time. And again, I actually didn't even watch the Pokemon XY anime, like, at all. So again, there could be a one-off line, kind of like what Clement said, where it's like, oh yeah, you know, this is kind of recent, it's a new thing. And it's going to do, like, it seems like an interesting thing that if they don't dial the clock back too much, we actually have, like, a prequel to Kalos, which people wanted the sequel, but again, we got that with Omega Ruby Now Sapphire, according to Game Freak interviews, unless they decide to just retcon that, because nothing makes sense with Game Freak anymore since it's all fan service. But of course, there's also Locked Door. Locked Power Plant Door, what are they for? That just opened it right up for Z version. Game Freak said, nah. We're also not going back to Kalos in modern times. You know, I want more answers. Ever since I passed Route 13, Kalos Power Plant, one thing's been bugging me. To the left of the Badlands, there's a standard power plant. But then to the left of the field, there's several buildings that do not open. And, like, the thing is, like, yeah, if we already go to Lysandre Labs, like, what is this? Why are they chilling here? What decor is this? What's the setup on the Badlands? So, there's stuff to explain and get more out of. Badlands, Pokemon appear in dirt mounds. Strong wind that blows. Paying attention to the map is significant because, yeah, like, the power plant is right there when it comes to Lumiose City, so that has to play a role. And that's kind of it. I'm just kind of, like, looking for some kind of angles, some kind of thoughts as to what's going on here. Apparently I missed this. I don't care about Mega Evolution. Everyone should have already known my thoughts about that. And then, okay, like, so we got all this information. Knowing what we know now, does that change anything? It's like, okay, redevelopment plan, we're still just trying to base off of that. This is the future. This is kind of just like them showing off what's happening. X and Y takes place, what, 10 years after Pokemon Red and Blue version? And then Sun and Moon's like 3 to 4 to 5 years after that, which is why Red and Blue are so old. So I don't know, like, what other correlations and connections and callbacks we have to break down with that. So they're just kind of like showing X and Y here. And somehow that ties to Legends, and somehow they're trying to just shoehorn everything together in. And then Floette is still on the table, and you know something's got to go down with that, right? And that's all terrible. And then we got AZ, who really doesn't help out with any of this either. Because we have to go all the way back, and that doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, and then there's Mega Evolution. History and origins of Mega Evolution are shrouded in mystery and have contradictions. Excellent. We don't know. I don't know. And I'm worried. Because that's what made Pokemon Legends Arceus so... Well, one of the things. The gameplay loop, the actual, like, overall... Like, everything about Pokemon Legends sucked. I might have to re-upload my Pokemon Legends thing just to kind of, like, remind everyone as to why Pokemon Legends is terrible. But because, again, it threw away the lore. It was completely careless. It only cared about fan service that went absolutely nowhere and didn't establish or build upon anything in Pokemon, despite being a game of legend. So with this, while there are, like, a lot of open-ended things that ended up just getting completely forgotten, which is an issue with, like, older Pokemon games and stuff, I think there's actually too much ambiguity here, and then they have, like, a free pass to rewrite whatever they want. You know, redact the inconvenient things, rebuild the story that was never meant to exist for Pokemon X and Y 12 years later. And that's not good. Alright. So that's what's going on with Pokemon Legends AZ. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.